All right, CNT120, we are working on our Chapter 6 wireless lab. We just got done setting up the basic router settings, and then we went in and did the wireless settings and even added some wireless security. So at this point, and actually right before we stopped, we did a quick trace through our router network, through our Linksys router out to Google, just to see trace one more time. From, kind of like a refresher from previous labs. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move over to my laptop, whether you borrowed one from our lab room or your own. I'm going to, on my laptop now, open my wireless settings. Either use, if you're on Windows, use the bottom corner where you have the wireless icon, open that up. Or if you're on the Apple, it's up on the top bar. You use the little wireless icon, and you're going to search for networks that are out there. And you're going to look for the one you just created. In my case, it was Brown CNT2 this time. I'm going to click on that. Once I click on that, I will need to plug the password in. So I'll need to plug in the password that I configured, password 12345, for my security. And I'm actually going to do a show password so I can make sure that I have my syntax right. Make sure you have the syntax identical to what you configured on the router. I'm going to click join. And if everything went well, I'm going to join right up, and it'll be uneventful. If it did not, you need to retrace your steps and make sure you've typed in the password correctly on the laptop. If it still doesn't work, then make sure you go back and check the MAC address that was entered in the MAC filter. So back here on wireless, here's your wireless, go to MAC filter, go to edit, and make sure this is correct. Remember, it's 0 through 9, A through F. 0 through 9, A through F. So make sure you haven't typed in O instead of 0, or you don't accidentally have a B instead of a D, something like that. So double check that, change that if you need to, and then try to reconnect. It's usually a typo on one of those two things that'll cause this to not connect. That's usually what it's going to do. So I've connected. And I'm going to click on my little wireless icon again and look to see, yep, I'm connected to my Brown CNT02 network. And if I look at the IP settings, if I do another ifconfig or ipconfig on this, I should see that I'm getting a 192.168 address. So I'm going to scroll up to my EN0 on my laptop here. And I'm seeing that I'm getting a 192.168 1.102. So I know it's coming from my router. If you're on Windows, ipconfig and check what's the IP address you're getting. Yay! Okay, so now that that's connected, I'm going to leave that connected to my wireless network. Back on my router, let's go to the status page. Boo! Way over here on the right. On the initial screen, this is the setup that we have. Here's my name of the router. Here's the IP address that the college has given me. And then we know we're handing out the 192. So this is all the WAN stuff out here. So take a peek at that. Let's go to the local network. This would be the stuff that the router is handing out to the clients, the 192.168s, and that's where that's coming from. If we go to the DHCP clients table, what I should see, this should be the my laptop. This is the wireless laptop, and here's the desktop that's connected. Okay, so this actually starts showing any devices that are connected to this network. All right, so this shows you what's connected. Here's my desktop that's connected to it, 1.100. This looks like this was maybe a device that was previously there. So let's do a little delete on that and make sure that guy is gone. Okay, I'll go back to the clients table. Looks like that might have been one that was connected previously. So we'll do a refresh. There we go. So there's my laptop that I have. 1102, and then this is the desktop. So there's my devices connected to it. We'll close that out. Now let's look at the wireless tab over here. Here is the settings we had. This is where this is the SSID that we have, showing the DHCP servers enabled, encryption's enabled, etc. And we're using channel 1. That was the one we were using. We had selected. So there's a basic wireless network setup and even a device using the wireless network. So what we're going to do now is let's gather some proof of getting this all set up. So I'm actually going to have you grab 2 screenshots of your setup. We're going to grab the router page and then the wireless page. So right here on the status, let's go to the router. And right here, we're going to grab a screenshot of this because this shows your router name configured. basically the WAN connections here and that your DHCP set up. So I'm just going to use on the Windows here on my desktop here, I'm going to use my snipping tool. And this allows me to create a screenshot of whatever I click and drag. So once the snipping tool comes up, I click new, and then I'm going to click and drag around this whole thing, and that's going to create a JPEG of that for me. And I'm just going to do save, and I'll call this, I'm going to do my documents folder, and I have a Chapter 6 lab folder here. So I'm going to documents. You can go right to the desktop if you want to. In here, I'm just going to rename this PNG. I'm going to enable it, my router config. Okay, router config. And it has a PNG for you. You could change it to a JPEG if you want. You can leave it PNG. That is fine. I'll do JPEG to match my directions over here. And I'll do a save. So there is a picture showing the router configuration. I'm going to close that out now. Back here, I'm going to go to the wireless tab. And I want to see that your wireless is set up. So we had the router set up. Now we want to show the wireless setup. So I'm going to do another snipping tool again. Snipping. And I'll say new. And I'm going to click and drag this. I'm just going to grab the whole thing. And I'll save that. I'm going to go right back to my folder, in this case documents, the Chapter 6 folder that I have. And I'll call this my wireless config. Wireless config. JPEG. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to go to my folder where I have these. Here is the router config. I'm going to double check that, make sure it looks okay. And it does. And then I'm going to double check my wireless config. And that's there as well. So I have both of those files for submission. Excellent. Now what I might want to do while you're here, you could even log right into MyHack and D2L and submit both of those files to the Dropbox right now if you wanted to. Be my guest. That way you're sure they're there. After doing that, come back to this wireless, your configuration utility for the router. And we do want to remove any configuration from here. So to do that, we're going to go to Administration. In here, there is an option for Factory Defaults. We're going to click Factory Defaults. And we're going to do Yes and Save Settings. And what this will do is reboot it and clear off that config. So once I do that, it's going to reboot all that. It's going to remove all that config, reboot it, and come up to a default state. So let that do its thing. We'll give it a minute to do so, and then we can start disconnecting and putting away. We'll disconnect the patch cable from the laptop, from the router. Return the cable back to the college connection, and the desktop. We'll unplug the power from the router. Put the router and the power cord back where you got it from. And then your laptop as well, you can disconnect that from the wireless network. And we'll power that guy down. And return that to, if it's yours, obviously return to your backpack. But if it's one of ours from the lab room, make sure you get it back to the laptop cabinet, please in the correct slot, and please with the power cord plugged back into it so it's charged up for the next crew. And if you submitted your files already, excellent. If not, take those two files that you have. In this case, here's my router config, wireless config, and submit them to the Chapter 6 Dropbox on D2L. And there is your basic wireless lab, basic wireless connectivity lab. The rest of your lab time today, make sure you're getting your design lab finished up and submitted.